Welcome to the Fundamentals of CAD. My name is Dennis Fogg, and I've been a CAD user since the early 90s. This class is appropriate for those that are comfortable with computers and have a working knowledge of how to navigate Microsoft Windows. You do not need any prior CAD experience to gain from this class. Let's get started. In Chapter 1, you'll learn what CAD stands for, be introduced to two popular CAD software programs. We'll have a first look inside one of those programs and begin our discussions of model and paper space, two very important features available in CAD software to help simplify the drafting and design process. Then we'll review the key concepts discussed in Chapter 1, and finally have a look at what's next in Chapter 2. CAD is an abbreviation for Computer-Aided Drafting and Design. You can think of CAD as your electronic drafting board. We can trace its beginning back to the 1950s, but it didn't have much impact on the business world until the 1980s. Companies like McDonnell Douglas developed a program called Unigraphics, which was a very powerful 3D solids modeling software that ran on mainframe-type computer systems. In 1982, a company named Autodesk came into being, and in 1983 released its first version of AutoCAD. For the most part, CAD popularity became more sophisticated as the personal computer increased in power. Two-dimensional drafting dominated the CAD community for many years, and in the early 1990s, three-dimensional drafting became more common as machine tools were becoming more and more computer-driven. These machine tools were known as CNCs, or computer numerically controlled. That launched the marriage between CAD and machine tools and became known as CAD-CAM. CAM meaning Computer-Aided Manufacturing. Now it was possible to use 3D CAD models to actually generate machine code, dramatically reducing the time needed to produce a part. Another important advantage of CAD is its ability to reuse objects that have already been created and reuse that work in future projects. For example, if a subdivision were going to use only 3 different house designs, those buildings could be drawn only once and then reused as many times as needed in future drawings. With hand drafting, those homes would have had to have been drawn into every new project. This brings us to a very powerful and important feature of CAD, the block. A block is simply a copy of any CAD work that has already been created, like the houses in our previous example. Many companies create libraries of blocks that are specific to their business, and they can be used in later projects. And as you might guess, the electronic drawings are much easier to revise and modify, which is another primary reason to move to CAD. As block libraries are developed, the user is freed from the demands of drafting and is given more time to devote to design. The downside of moving to CAD is the steep learning curve. It will actually take longer to draw and design with CAD for the first few months, or more, depending on the time you invest. There is no doubt that CAD can and will impact your productivity if you make the commitment. Because CAD software is very sophisticated, it can cost thousands of dollars. But don't despair. There are cheaper alternatives that are perfectly acceptable for most users. We're going to limit our discussion to only 2 CAD platforms, or software packages, those being AutoCAD and IntelliCAD. AutoCAD is by far the most popular. AutoCAD has a very large user community which can be a very useful tool for any support issues that might come up. There are internet sites devoted to helping users find solutions to specific issues, and they have the advantage of being free. AutoCAD does have a higher purchase price, and depending on the version you purchased, can be several $1,000s per seat. But you'll find it to be a very capable platform. Most users will not use all of the features offered by the software. IntelliCAD is considered to be an AutoCAD clone, and at one point was actually owned by the same company that developed AutoCAD. IntelliCAD lags behind AutoCAD in features and performance, but the cost is very low, starting around $250. Both AutoCAD and IntelliCAD support what are called add-ons or add-ins, which are software programs in their own right that run on top of these applications. Carlson Survey is an example of an add-in. This allows third-party programmers to create custom software for smaller niche markets. In this course, we'll be using Carlson Survey running on top of IntelliCAD, but the basic features will be common to Carlson Survey running on AutoCAD. Let's have an inside look at Carlson running on IntelliCAD.